Long ago, plague ravaged the kingdom of Hallownest, an ancient rage which infects the dreams of those living and dead. Civilization was on the brink of extinction, but the monarch of these lands, the Pale King, would not allow all that he toiled for to just crumble. And so, with help from many of Hallownest's great minds, he devised a solution. Children of the Pale King and the White Lady, pumped with void before their birth, turning them into something neither alive nor dead. With no mind to think, and no will to break, a perfect vessel could imprison the infection's source within its void insides, saving Hallownest. And no matter how great a cost, his kingdom would persevere. If a vessel survived its creation, it must climb out of the abyss. If it cannot survive the climb, it was not worthy to begin with. By the time the Hollow Knight was chosen, thousands, if not millions of children were processed. He thought it was the only way to save civilization, but even so, felt regret in the deed, and made the decision to seal this blemish on the kingdom's history forever. His children who survived were locked away in the abyss, robbed of the chance to be anything more than an abandoned vessel. And then the plan proceeded to fail horribly. Thankfully, the Dreamers were able to delay the inevitable, and with a minor catch, the Pale King's wish was fulfilled. Hallownest would be placed in a metaphorical stasis, but only to preserve the kingdom's ruin. Gotta love that irony. And yet, against all odds, a few vessels were able to escape the abyss, including the character we play as, the Knight. As for how? Well, we've got some game theories, but even Team Cherry doesn't know. Which is curious, considering they made the game, wrote the lore. I guess that means it doesn't matter how the vessels escaped, just the fact that they did. And Hornet, for some reason, isn't too happy about that. Being the Pale King's daughter and princess protector of Hallownest's ruin, it makes sense she'd know a bit about her half-siblings, calling the Knight a ghost and just saying outright,
I know what you are. I know what you tried to do. I can't allow it.
All things considered, another vessel seeking to replace the currently failing Hollow Knight should be a good thing. And yet, after stating she knows the Knight's intentions, she calls it weak and attempts to kill it. Seems she wants to kill every vessel that crosses her. But why? Well, her responsibilities are a little more specific than just defending the kingdom.
My good friend, you wear that bright mark of relationship. Then you've met her, perhaps? Her who'd guard the mark, the gender child.
Whether tasked to, or by choice, Hornet's known for guarding the King's brand, an item which marks the bearer as king, and allows the abyss to be unsealed. Why this item even exists is heavily debated, but it's likely as old as the kingdom itself, and by its location, a product of the Pale King casting away his massive worm body for a much smaller stature. Hornet insinuates only descendants of the Pale King can take the mark, so she must be guarding it from escaped vessels who currently roam the kingdom. But why doesn't she take the brand for herself? Seems to be a one-time use item. That's a surefire way to prevent anyone stealing it. But no, it makes sense she opts to protect it. The importance of this item goes beyond a simple key to the abyss. There's a deep responsibility that comes with literally being recognized as king. Even bugs foreign to Hallownest realize this.
A king, the tiny it becomes. Jinn knows that mark, but cannot bow.
Tiny thing. Oh? Ooh. The mark of worm you bear. Is it change you seek, or to save this ruin?
However, Hornet feels she cannot fulfill this duty, as she's initially seen to make no attempts in ending the kingdom's stasis. No one she's crossed while protecting the brand, including herself, has been worthy to bear the mark. And thus it lay unclaimed. But if she were to claim it, would she be named a king or a queen? Discuss in the comments. Though there is a recognized queen of Hallownest, the White Lady. She played a substantial part in how the vessels were created, being their mother, after all. Not much else is known about her, besides being a root of some kind. I saw a commenter say she looks like mycelium, which is definitely my headcanon, but who knows. However, unlike her husband, the White Lady is confirmed alive and well. Well, not entirely. She currently resides in the Queen's Gardens, which, as the name suggests,
it was not often used by the common bugs, being a well-guarded retreat for our late queen.
There's an interesting distinction to be made, in that the Pale King is referenced to have suddenly disappeared, while in this dialogue, the White Lady is presumed dead. In reality, the Queen of Hallownest felt so much shame for her part in the deed, she magically imprisoned herself to her vacation home as a means of penance, to never procreate again. For a very long time, she waited here, until time itself took her vision. And finally, on one fateful day...
Oh, one arrives. Far it walks to find me. Did it seek my aid, or did the path carry it by chance to so pertinent a place? It is true that you were awaited. No, perhaps that is inaccurate. True, one like you was awaited.
It's likely she knew her husband had sealed off the abyss, so for the White Lady to have expected our arrival, she must have known some vessels had escaped. But how could she while blind and bound? Well, she seems to have this innate connection to her kin. As she states,
Only this small one I register, if maybe because it shares some piece of myself. This one stands clear upon a misted world.
and she's able to sense the hollowknight weakening from halfway across the map. So it's plausible she's got a radar system on all the vessels roaming Hallownest. meaning the White Lady knew how many survivors were being condemned to the abyss, likely contributing to that whole guilt thing she's got going. But she did decide to run away from her duties as queen, making her unworthy to be marked as king. Which is so funny I'd mention that in this silky smooth transition, because the White Lady knows that Hornet defends the king's brand.
It faced the gendered child. She's a fierce foe, strong in mind and body, striking reflection of her mother, though the two were permitted little time together. I never begrudged the worm's dalliance as bargain. In fact, I feel some affection for the creature birthed.
Remember, while Hornet is pale royalty, she isn't related to the White Lady by blood. And yet here, she's strangely descriptive of Hornet's appearance and personality. It's gonna be impossible to establish a timeline of events, but we know at some point she met Hornet, and at another point, discovered her responsibility to defend the King's brand. So what am I getting at with all this? Well, to summarize our findings thus far, Hornet discovered vessels roaming Hallownest's ruin, and so, as Princess Protector, defended the King's brand from those she deemed unworthy. Before embarking on her endless patrol, she might have given a final goodbye to those still close to her, either out of a sense of duty or compassion, or a mix of both. Whatever the case, the White Lady knows Hornet has been protecting the King's brand for what seems like ages. And yet, in her very first line, she says,
"It is true, true that you were awaited. True, one like you was awaited."
How is that possible? With all her time waiting, the White Lady should have realized Hornet is killing every vessel on sight. Vessels who, might I add, were not raised and trained to prime form like the Hollow Knight was. How did the White Lady predict a vessel would survive the Princess Protector? It makes no sense. Unless, of course, she's trying to mislead us. The White Lady's hiding something very important about vessels. Today, we're gonna find out what. Here's a quick recap of the key events leading us to the Dream No More ending.
A vessel finds the White Lady's cocoon, as she expected to happen. Here she gives it her half of the Kingsoul charm, and claims,
"When united, great power is granted. And on the path ahead, great power it will need."
Outside of tunnel making, the Kingsoul generates 4 soul every 2 seconds, or 1 free spell cast every 18 seconds. All for the expensive cost of 5 notches. It's just a bad charm. So did she actually expect us to defeat the Hollow Knight with this thing?
Afterwards, she reveals that the Hollow Knight is failing, and explains 2 possible outcomes from this.
The first is inevitable on current course. Regression. All minds relinquished to that pernicious plague. The second I find preferable, and would seek your aid in its occurrence. Replacement. I implore you, usurp the vessel. Its supposed strength was ill-judged. It was tarnished by an idea instilled. But you are free of such blemishes. you could contain that thing inside.
At this moment, it seems she does not realize another option exists for defeating the Radiants.
Upon returning with the completed Kingsoul, she wonders if the knight is more than simply a vessel. Then comments,
The Kingsoul. What is at the heart of it, I wonder? If its curiosity wills it, it should seek out that place. That place where it was born, where it died, where it began.
Before this, she directly ordered the knight to seal the infection within itself. If the knight followed that command, giving away her half of the Kingsoul would have been for nothing, right? Because it'd get locked inside the black egg. If this item's one of a kind, what was her thought process risking the charm like that?
Finally, when returning with the newly transformed Void Heart, she senses a pulsing emptiness, claiming the knight was transformed by the revelations it found in the birthplace. She ends by stating,
The fate of our kingdom, our Hallownest. That future belongs to you now.
I'm curious what the White Lady thinks we discovered. Through her innate connection to her kin, maybe she knew of the knight's amnesia from crossing the desolate wastes, backing her claim to it lacking an idea instilled. But it's not clear how remembering the Abyss Climb cutscene would transform the knight, no less how she knew that fact. So then, it seems the crux of these contradictions is due to the Kingsoul. We don't know why she claims the charm powerful, making it unclear how its completion prompted her to think we should explore the birthplace, sowing further confusion by basically knowing how the Void Heart came to be. So, if we can figure out what this charm does, outside of making tunnels, that'll hopefully clear things up. For a whopping 0 notches, the Void Heart is the most crucial charm we find towards explaining the plot of Hollow Knight.
an emptiness that was hidden within, now unconstrained, unifies the void under the bearer's will. This charm is a part of its bearer, and cannot be unequipped.
For this video, we're more focused on the second sentence, as it outright proves the knight to have a will. The Pale King claims the perfect vessel is born with no will to break. But the knight is not a perfect vessel. As the White Lady theorizes, it's more than that. For a literal explanation of how this charm works, the bearer unifies void by focusing their will through the crest of this charm. A Silksong crest? No. I'm talking focusing crests, like the one seen on the weathered mask.
Strange mask from a godless land, passed down over time. The design suggests the wearer's thoughts were focused through the crest.
And Team Cherry did not make me complete all the Pantheon bindings just for my reward to mean nothing, okay? The knight focuses its will through this crest to unify void, proving the knight has a will. And in addition to Hornet stating we'd need a strong will to witness the abyss, and the journal entry for the siblings literally reading,
Fragment of a lingering will.
it's pretty much confirmed that all vessels are created with wills. It's just a matter of how strong their wills are for it to be a notable quality. So was it the knight's superior will that formed this charm? What about that resilience born of two voids Hornet mentions? She does claim the knight's special due to its amnesia. Well, Most NPCs who comment on the Void Heart say it's proof the knight accepted the void within itself. So what information does the Abyss Climb reveal for the knight to be transformed by the revelations found? As Hornet says, the act of opening the Abyss would reveal its tragic conception. So that's not this cutscene's grand revelation. Through the White Lady, the knight knows of a vessel currently housed in the Black Egg, so witnessing someone other than itself being chosen as the hollowknight isn't that grand a revelation either. What the knight definitively discovered was the sole purpose and reason for its creation, as plainly stated throughout the memory.
You shall seal the blinding light that plagues their dreams. You are the vessel. You are the hollowknight.
This must be the grand revelation. However, Hornet seems to believe that vessels who remember their past are too weak-willed to stand up and fight. Yet the knight was empowered by this revelation, defying expectations. Whatever the case, other escaped vessels are likely unfit to reveal the Void Heart, as they cannot seem to accept the circumstance of their creation. Even so, they are seen to instinctively seek and seal the infection inside themselves, possibly influenced by the commands given by the Pale King during the Abyss Climb. His very will was exerted on the Hollow Knight its whole life, denying it the agency to make its own choices. This hindered it from developing a strong individual will, and hypothetically, makes the Hollow Knight unfit of revealing the Void Heart. However, the knight could not have been hindered by these scarring memories or overbearing wills, as it could not remember them. Until now. And here, climbing the abyss anew, the knight is stronger than its kin, more developed, set apart by all the faces it's witnessed, and all the trials it's surpassed. As the White Lady comments, completing the Kingsoul proves resolve, dedication, and potential not expected of a mindless vessel. So for the knight to have accepted the void inside itself, this means it is no longer attempting to seal the infection on instinct or the outside will of its father. It knows it's a vessel, and has chosen of its own free will to save Hallownest. And at that very moment, the Void Heart reveals itself to the knight. With this, we now have satisfying conclusions for both the function of this charm and the trigger for its creation. Though creation might not be the right word, as it seems to have originated from the Kingsoul. Before the White Lady suggests we explore the birthplace, she says very specifically,
The Kingsoul. What is at the heart of it, I wonder?
Maybe the White Lady meant, what is at the heart of the knight? But she does start the question by saying, the Kingsoul, ... It seems like the Void Heart forms from within the core of the Kingsoul, tearing it apart and destroying the charm outright. And to clarify, we clearly see both halves lack void within these cracks, so for any to suddenly jump into the core right as it fused is, pretty unlikely. But something is at the heart of the Kingsoul, and that something transformed into the Void Heart. Let's figure out what. At an overbearing 5 notches to equip, the highest cost of any charm in the game, the Kingsoul is just barely worth putting on.
Holy charm, symbolizing a union between higher beings. The bearer will slowly absorb the limitless soul contained within. Opens the way to a birthplace.
From a gameplay perspective, this is a bad charm for combat. But what about a lore perspective? The Kingsoul is basically a bottomless mana pool, and spell work is rare within Hallownest. I mean, the Soul Sanctum drained thousands of bugs for the stuff. It doesn't seem easily acquired. So, if hypothetically, the knight had full access to that limitless soul, this becomes the most overpowered charm in Hollow Knight. However, the knight never unlocks this ability in the Kingsoul, because it got torn to pieces when the Void Heart formed, for some reason. So to figure out why that happened, we should move our attention to the first line. As we know of the Void Heart, grand events can form a charm into being, and I believe these two unionizing was enough to bear a special product. Besides children, of course. At some point, the Kingsoul was split in two, separated by the full length of the kingdom. Both sides resemble their bearers, with the White Lady's half topped with what looks like the lettuce wraps currently about her body, and the Pale King's half topped with 4 horns, as is prominent in most symbols depicting the crown of a king. For my attentive watchers, you'll have noticed the Kingsoul bears a focusing crest. Fittingly, it's attached to the Pale King's half, likely due to his ability to expand the minds of others. But does this crest have any purpose beyond symbolism? Well, the limitless soul the Kingsoul boasts is contained within, not pulled into itself from outside. So if that isn't it, what is the crest for? What if, similar to the Void Heart, the Kingsoul focuses the bearer's will through itself? When the knight witnessed the abyss climb, it surpassed that of lesser vessels who failed to accept their creation. And all the while, the knight's superior will courses through the Kingsoul, through its crest, through its heart. So upon the knight reaching its grand conclusion, the Kingsoul transforms the peak of the knight's willpower into something tangible, solidifying the Void Heart into being. It's definitely speculative, but I believe the Kingsoul is not just some charm for extra soul, it's a catalyst for hidden potential, able to reveal the bearer's truest power. I wouldn't confuse it for empowering one's will. That would water down how the knight made these choices on its own. Instead, the Kingsoul is able to transform willpower, coursing through itself into something physical. Now, that might not be its direct purpose, as quite clearly, nowhere is this in the charm's description. But of what we definitively know of focusing crests and the Void Heart, this is a pretty good guess for why the Kingsoul explodes into a different charm. So let me reiterate, though speculative, I do find these conclusions satisfying. Finally, after all our extensive analysis, all our breakthroughs contextualizing deep lore, and all the honor we restored to the good name of Kingsoul, the inconsistencies and contradictions surrounding the White Lady's dialogue still don't make any sense. At the very least, we now know why the White Lady orders us to both complete the Kingsoul and seal the infection within ourselves. From her current perspective, the charm will reveal the knight's dormant potential as a vessel, nothing more. However, the White Lady claims after seeing the fixed charm that it could be proof of the knight being more than just a vessel. Let me reiterate. She asked the knight to fix the Kingsoul, thinking it just a vessel. But only after seeing the charm she asked us to complete, does she finally realize that fixing it could prove the knight special. How she didn't already make this connection before giving a vessel this quest is quite the strange lapse in judgment. The only way for this to make sense is that she genuinely expected the knight to fail in completing the Kingsoul, leaving her surprised once proven wrong. When she presented the knight with this supposedly futile effort, she reasonably decided against revealing her true thoughts, lest her superior will as its mother accidentally hinder the knight's confidence, I guess. Sadly, in our attempt to contextualize the White Lady's dialogue purely at face value, we're forced to assume her thoughts without much evidence to back it. So to properly assess her words, maybe we should consider reading between the lines a bit. How about we start with her Voidheart dialogue? Unlike her reaction to the Kingsoul's completion, it's not obvious she's surprised by this outcome, more intrigued than anything.
That pulsing emptiness. Truly, it has been transformed by the revelations it found. Does it feel anything? Triumph or hate? If it does, I cannot sense it.
It's hard to gauge what exactly she believes we witnessed in the birthplace. Our birth egg? The abyss climb cutscene? The millions of dead vessels? Why did she tell us to go down there? Well, she doesn't tell us exactly. She says,
if its curiosity wills it, it should seek out that place.
That wasn't a direct order by the White Lady, like we've seen prior, which is very interesting. Now that I think about it, did she really command us to fix the Kingsoul?
I have a gift, held long for one of your kind, half of a whole. When united, great power is granted, and on the path ahead, great power it will need.
Even after realizing the Voidheart for what it is, she says,
the fate of our kingdom, our Hallownest, that future belongs to you now.
It seems every decision the knight made towards acquiring Dream No More was not forced upon it by the White Lady. She merely made suggestions and hints. If at any point she directly ordered the knight to take the path towards this ending, then theoretically, it would not be the knight's individual will coursing through the Kingsoul, but a foreign will imposed upon it by the White Lady. And you can see how that caused problems in creating the Voidheart. It's very interesting how these lines are worded, almost as if it's purposeful. So, maybe the White Lady doesn't think we're more than a vessel. Maybe she's known it from the start. Trade offer. You receive directions on how to contribute to my next lore video. I receive 10 seconds of your time to advertise my YouTube memberships because I need money to pay editors so I can make more than one lore video a year. Also, there's some extra goodies you get for helping me out this way. And just to clarify, you don't need to pay to be a part of the next lore video. My next lore video. It's going to be analyzing the symbolism behind magic seals in Hollow Knight. Some of them are pretty straightforward. Some of them are, what the frick is this thing, right? There's tons more seals to look at and dissect, and I'll credit your insights if they make it into the video. So, if you want to participate, join my Discord server. There's no stupid answers, Because even the most crackpot of theories can lead us to the truth. Otherwise, you can join just to hang out. We try to do community events once a week, like the one you're seeing on screen where everyone tried to kill me. Yeah, that's it. They just tried to kill me. It was surprisingly pretty fun. So, thank you for listening. That's all I had to say. Let's get back to the video. Does she know? She might know. Does she know? 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 I admit, attributing the White Lady's inconsistencies to a conspiracy she headed before the events of the game sounds like quite a stretch. But I assure you, it might not be. Let's start by tackling the elephant in the room. If the White Lady was secretly guiding the knight towards the Dream No More ending, why does she contradict this path by ordering it to seal the infection? Following that command would subject the knight to the superior will of its mother, which would make it unfit of the Void Heart. Counterpoint, what if the White Lady knew that? What if she was testing if the knight would disobey her command in favor of its own individual curiosity towards fixing the Kingsoul? This would explain why she knowingly risks her half being sealed away forever in the Black Egg, because she hoped the knight would do otherwise. So then, if the White Lady's conspiracy is real, when did she discover vessels had the potential to save Hallownest beyond stasis? How did she figure it out when the Pale King couldn't? Well, she knows vessels roam Hallownest, but since we're talking conspiracy, is this because she helped them escape the Abyss? Well, if she directly aided in pulling out survivors, it would have had to be before she magically imprisoned herself within her retreat. How about the knight's amnesia? Was she responsible for that too? It seems the knight is the first vessel Hornet meets to have memory loss. So if the White Lady was the culprit, why would she opt for only one to enter the Desolate Wastes when multiple roam Hallownest? Would be quite the blunder on her end. Thankfully, a lack of direct involvement does not hinder the conspiracy. As we can assume, likely because of her innate connection, she knows the knight has amnesia, which is why she claims it free of blemishes. As for the Pale King, his course of action was so damaging to vessels, amnesia was needed to fix one. So, out of any bug in Hallownest, the White Lady, given all this time to contemplate the Hollow Knight's failure, whilst innately connected to her kin, is the most likely to have realized the potential hidden within vessels, and how it could be harnessed. This is one of the weaker ends of this theory, as we use speculation as evidence for when and how the White Lady figured out the vessel's true potential. But then again, we're forced to do the same thing when taking her dialogue at face value. So as of now, the conspiracy doesn't sound too far-fetched. Though, as the name would suggest, did anyone else conspire with the White Lady? When suggesting we explore the birthplace, she says very plainly,
If its curiosity wills it, it should seek out that place.
a direct test of the knight's capacity for individual choice. What's interesting, however, is how this mirrors Hornet's dialogue. After witnessing the knight ascend the abyss unscathed, she states,
A difficult journey you would face, but a choice it can create. Prolong our world's stasis, or face the heart of its infection. I'd urge you to take that harder path, but what end may come, the decision rests with you.
Even before acquiring the Void Heart, Hornet clearly states we're capable of sealing the infection, or destroying it outright if we keep pushing. It's our choice to make. Fun fact, when I first played Hollow Knight, for a whole week, I thought the Sealed Siblings ending was the last one in the game. Would have been nice if before the final boss, Hornet gave us the step-by-step on killing the Radiants, though I assume Team Cherry wanted to reward the player the satisfaction of realizing this option on their own. But from a lore perspective, by letting the Knight decide how Hallownest would be saved, Hornet recognizes the Knight's individual will as superior to her own, which is a direct mirror of the White Lady's reaction to the Void Heart. See what I'm getting at?
So, you'd seek sacred Hallownest. Turn back, simple bug. This place is a corpse. It will grant only death, as will I to those who'd seek to desecrate it.
It's important to establish that in the Quirrell comic, Hollow Knight, and possibly even Silksong, Hornet's actions are always towards the benefit of protecting what's left of Hallownest. She's the Princess Protector, after all. Though killing vessels on sight is a heartless act, from her perspective, it's just, as she believes one would doom Hallownest in a failed attempt to seal the infection. Yet, she knows exactly how the Knight lost its memories. Amnesia cued her to a vessel's potential, but before this, she never tried to, I don't know, capture one, throw it in the desolate wastes, see what happens. She's older than Elderbug. She had the time to experiment. Wait. In the Quirrell comic, she calls Hallownest a corpse, something which has died and cannot return. And though they shared little time together, she wants to protect what's left of her mother from those who'd seek to break her seal. It seems for much of her watch, Hornet's only ever thought of maintaining the stasis of Hallownest. But after that unintended test of resolve, she reflects on her reservations and sees a future worth sacrificing her mother for. It's a satisfying reason for why Hornet couldn't connect the dots on a vessel's potential. She was only focused on preserving Hallownest's ruin, not saving it. But for Hornet to know of the Void Heart conspiracy must mean she rejected the White Lady's plan, as her Green Path dialogue definitely shows she was just trying to kill the Knight, not test its will. This leaves us wondering why Hornet would dismiss a possible means to destroy the infection. Seems very selfish of her. After you achieve a proof of resolve, Hornet still questions if the Knight is strong enough to witness its millions of dead kin. It took a lot of proof for her to finally believe in a vessel, so it's not a stretch to say she'd reject the White Lady's plan to utilize one. However, Hornet's dialogue never insinuates she's leading us on a predetermined path, making it unlikely she was briefed on this conspiracy. Instead, it's more likely Hornet's been acting on her own accord throughout the events of Hollow Knight. Thankfully, though, this conclusion does not disprove the White Lady's scheming. Besides granting us access to the Abyss, Hornet does not directly contribute towards acquiring the Void Heart. And though her help was needed for us to fight the Radiants, by her dialogue prior, this opening wasn't foretold by someone. One way or another, both these characters lead us towards the Dream No More ending, but they can also act independently of each other's influence without hindering a possible conspiracy. At the beginning of this video, we established Hornet's killing spree of the escaped vessels. However, with the White Lady knowing this, it's curious how she predicted one would end up finding her. This prompted us to analyze her dialogue at face value, revealing notable inconsistencies, like commanding the knight to seal the infection, while also suggesting it explore an unrelated birthplace. The crux of this confusion lies in why she gifted us her half of the Kingsoul. So, after contextualizing key parts of the game's lore, we concluded this charm acts as a catalyst for revealing power hidden within its bearer. However, when she gave the knight her half of the charm, it seems she did not realize, at that moment, that a vessel fixing the Kingsoul would prove it more than just a vessel. This lapse in judgment, from a higher being no less, left us wondering if her dialogue held ulterior motives. Upon further inspection, it's curious she never commands the knight to complete the Kingsoul, or explore the birthplace, or outright destroy the Radiance, as coincidentally, doing so would impose her individual will upon the knight's, making it unfit to reveal the Voidheart. If this is the case, then this entire time, she's been testing the knight's individual will, giving it commands she hopes it disobeys, and suggesting paths for its own curiosity to follow. The fact she predicted a worthy vessel would arrive makes us wonder how long she's been planning this, or if she had a hand in the vessel's escape, or if any other bugs were involved in this scheme. Whatever the case may be, the White Lady leading a conspiracy to save Hallownest by utilizing a vessel's truest potential is both a satisfying and valid way to address the inconsistencies with her dialogue. Now, that's not to say this is the right answer, as it's also valid to speculate she viewed the completion of the Kingsoul as a futile effort, justifying her surprise upon its completion. I also said her command to seal the infection was just a test of the knight's will, but that doesn't mean she was lying here. Whether we follow or disobey her command, the infection will still be dealt with. It's just a matter of if the knight delays the problem or solves it outright. As well, I claimed the White Lady knows of Hornet killing vessels, but I didn't explain how she knew one would end up being spared. The implications of this might prove Hornet's involvement, but you can discuss that one in the comments. In the end, viewing the White Lady's dialogue at face value or as a conspiracy requires speculation. So I'll leave it up to you on which sounds like the bigger stretch. If you thought the lore well ran dry years ago, don't worry bro, I got the speculation shovel. I have a few more Hollow Knight videos in the works that might end up being relevant to Silksong. And since you've made it this far, you might as well click the subscribe button, because I asked really nicely. Alright, see ya!